A luminary is simply a hollow shell that allows light to pass through as if from a candle. So in this exercise, we're going to use either pinch, coil, or the slab technique to create a stable, balanced, freestanding piece of art that uses both positive and negative space to allow light and air to move through the sculpture. We want to focus on shape, form, color, and texture in order to artistically emphasize the surface and contours of our artwork. And of course, ultimately, it needs to be able to hold some sort of candle or light. I'm choosing to build this luminary out of an enclosed pinch pot. You might choose otherwise. You might choose a slab or a coil build. In this case, I'm going to take this larger piece of clay and break it into two smaller ones that are about the same size, and then I'm going to make them into two balls and two pinch pots to put together. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll realize that I will speed things up and slow things down as I wish to emphasize different steps. What I'm doing here is simply forming two pinch pots out of similar sized pieces of clay so that I can put them together to create a hollow shell. Here I'm forming the first of two pinch pots. Notice my thumbs are on the inside, and my fingers are together on the outside to try to keep it as smooth as possible. As I begin on the second pinch pot, you'll see that I'm using the same method, thumbs on the inside, fingers together on the outside. I'm trying to make this pinch pot approximately the same size as the other one. Occasionally you might notice that I check the size by putting one pot against the other. Once the two are just about the same size, I'm going to score all around the edge of both of them, and I'm going to put slip on both of them as well so that I can put them together to form a hollow ball. As always, I'm going to emphasize that proper scoring and slipping is very important. If you slip but do not score, it will come apart. If you score but do not slip, it will come apart. Only by properly scoring and slipping can you make sure that it's not going to come apart the first chance it gets. Clay structure is always strongest when it's formed from one single piece of clay. Scoring and slipping is the best way that we can try and put it back together as if it was originally one piece. It's not perfect, but it's good, and it's the best way we have of dealing with it. Now you may have noticed that I'm smoothing out the outside with my fingers. I've also used a rib. I also used a scoring tool to rough up the outside so that when I put some water and some slip on it, using the rib smoothed it out even more. What I eventually want for this luminary is to make a very large egg shape. Of course, once this is built like a big egg shape, it will be hollow on the inside, and there will be no way for the gas to escape if I put it in the kiln. So I would never put it in the kiln that way. I'm going to be cutting holes in it to make it into a luminary, and that will allow free atmosphere exchange between the inside and the outside. Now here you will see at the top of your screen the bottom of that egg shape that I just made. I'm pressing out a slab here with my hands, not even using a roller, and I'm going to cut out some little shapes to make some feet to go at the bottom of this luminary. Once I get one foot of the right size, I'm going to use it as a template to make a second one. Eventually, I will texture them both, and I will score and slip them in place. The bottom of my egg shape is flat, so it's not in a lot of danger of rolling, but these will keep it a little bit more stable, and they will be decorative. So now that the feet are attached, I'm going to start on some other parts of this figure. I'm not even worried about the luminary aspects of it yet, I'm just making it sort of cute. So I'm going to press out the slab a little bit more and roll it flatter so that I can make some other shapes. I'm using the mouth of a small cup here to make two circles that are the same size. Using something like this allows me to get circles that are the same size. I can cut them out more customly once I get them marked. At this point, I've decided to make my luminary look like an owl, so these are going to be a couple of big eyes. Here you can see I've cut holes all the way through the eyes. This is the first part of the luminary process, a place where light can get through out of the inside where I would put a candle. Of course, two little holes like this isn't going to be nearly enough places for the light to come through. I want to give it a lot of holes, so I'm going to start cutting feather shapes in the chest part. Now, I don't have to get very elaborate. These feather shapes are actually just going to be crescents. The first one looks like a silly smile, but after a while you'll be able to see sort of a pattern that's going to develop as I put more and more crescents, first going down the front and then down the sides. Eventually I'll put some all the way on the sides of this hollow object so that it will look like wings. The idea is that I want to cut holes in it for light to get out. And I want the shape of those holes to in some way inform me about the creature. Hence the crescent-shaped feather patterns. Eventually I need to decide how to put some sort of candle or light inside this object. To do that, I'm making a little arched doorway on the back. It's not one that opens and closes, it's just a hole, and I leave a little lip on the bottom just in case there's a wax spill. I want it to be able to catch that on the bottom. Also, with the cutting of this hole, I take the opportunity to clean up the inside. There are lots of little bits of clay in there that I could not clean up from the outside while I was working on it. Now that I have a hole in the back, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to use a brush, and I'm going to use a tool to smooth out the inside as much as I possibly can, and then a little bit more beyond that, because when the inside is all sort of torn up, it looks pretty bad when you look at it up close. It's not enough just to clean up from the inside. I have to clean up the outside and the inside both. So here I am smoothing out some of the little feather marks that I made for wings. And in the chest, I'm going back and forth, inside and outside. Note here that a candle-sized hole in the back is only one way to put a light inside a luminary. Many luminaries, like pagoda lanterns, have lids that pop on and off. Still others might have a simple hole in the bottom, allowing you to place the luminary over the candle and have another dish or flat surface underneath. As a matter of fact, candles don't even have to be candles. You can buy a light bulb set to put inside, one of the little C7 lights. You can even buy LED versions of candles of different sizes. Just remember to exercise caution when using a real candle, because candles mean heat and flame. Also, in a shape like this, if the flame were above the eye holes, it would go out rather quickly because it will snuff itself. You may have also noticed that I'm using a blunt stick here to give a little bit more texture, something a little bit feathery, to the top. I'm continuing to add layers of texture as I go. You should continue to think how the form of the object, the shapes that you've cut in it, and the textures interplay to create an overall effect. I'm also putting in some subtle lines here to accentuate the shape of the wings and to cut off where one texture starts and the other ends. Remember, smooth is also a texture. There's no good excuse to fail to clean your piece at the end. Please note that I'm also signing my work on the bottom and I'm putting the date. It's in Roman numerals, but there it is. You will see that after the bisque fire I applied some colored slip and some stains and then a semi-translucent light brown glaze over the whole piece. So let's look at the finishing criteria. First of all, it is a hollow shell. It has a lot of negative space holes to allow the light through. It is balanced and freestanding. It uses a variety of different textures and colors. It was at least 5 inches tall before it was fired. And I gave it a cohesive theme, in this case, an animal. Here's another owl that you can look at. This one is in 2 pieces. Also, to create a luminary, it is not necessary to employ the pinch pot method. Slabs and coils work very well as well. The key to making a luminary is to create a hollow space that can encircle some sort of light source and enough holes to allow the light out.